Have the Flames found a new top line, and can Zayne Parekh make Team Canada's World Junior squad? Hey everyone, welcome into Hot Topics. This episode brought to you by ProStars Plumbing and Heating, Calgary's first choice when it comes to plumbing and heating. Rob Wong, joined alongside by Postmedia Calgary Flames writers Wes Gilbertson and Danny Austin. And guys, what do you know? The Flames can actually score more than 3 goals in a game as they potted 4 in a win in Nashville. The duo of Nazem Kadri and Jonathan Huberdeau had a lot to do with it, combining for 2 goals and an assist. That line of Kadri, Huberdeau, and Martin Pospisil looked pretty good for at least one night. West, do you think the Flames might have something here with this trio?
Yeah, Rob, I don't want to nitpick, but off the top you said, have the Flames found a new first line? I think the question is, have the Calgary Flames found a first line, period? And certainly, going back to that sort of miserable night in Pittsburgh when Ryan Huska put the lines in the blender in the third period and came up with this Kadri, Huberdeau, Pospisil combo, it has been their strongest line. We saw it again last night. Jonathan Huberdeau now has 7 points in his past 5 games, equals the longest point streak of his Flames career, and also he's factored on half the team's goals in the past 5 games. And so, he's the guy who is maybe stirring it offensively, but it feels like every time something good happens, you see Martin Pospisil in there sort of mucking it up. I know Ryan Huska, the Flames head coach, kind of went out of his way when asked about Huberdeau last night to say, don't discount the way Martin Pospisil's playing and what his sort of rabble rousing has opened up for his line mates. And, I think the most maybe encouraging development about this line is that, Kadri and Huberdeau, there has been zero chemistry there over the past 2 seasons. It was like every time they tried them together, you'd sort of cover your eyes and think, haven't we seen this experiment enough times? But for whatever reason, these past 4.5 games, it is clicking. And, for a team that is starved for 5-on-5 offense, that's a big development. That could be significant news for a team that is going to have struggles to score. Yeah, I know they got 4 last night, but they got 3 or less in 25 straight before that. And so if you can find a line that can produce at 5-on-5, it's certainly going to help.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just that this is the longest point streak. Jonathan Huberdeau in his tenure has never had 7 points in 5 games, which he has right now. So, we're not necessarily coming out and saying that he's playing the best hockey in the NHL right now, but it is certainly encouraging. It's a sign of life. And while we've given Huberdeau a lot of credit for his willingness to take accountability and to come out and admit that he hasn't necessarily, been performing up to the standards some people want from him, this has been as good hockey. He's scored big goals. I don't think you can say anything but okay, this is encouraging. I think with Martin Pospisil, we all sort of acknowledge that the experiment of moving him to center at the beginning of the year might have been a little bit too much too soon for a young player just entering his second year. And then with Kadri, I mean, Kadri, I feel like this season's been a little bit more stop and start maybe than last year. He's still producing. You can't really go and look at the numbers and find a sequence of games where you'd say, oh, Kadri's been terrible. But if you're actually watching, there have certainly been games where you would want more from him. So yeah, this is obviously encouraging. This is one of the strange things about this year is that there has been so much movement. Part of that is Anthony Mantha getting hurt and what have you, but they haven't really found those line combinations that they're sticking with game after game after game. So if something's working, I would anticipate we see a lot more of it, and this one's working.
So despite the win, it was another tough night in the box score for Rasmus, Andersson, and Kevin Bahl, who were -3 and -2 respectively. Andersson now -9 in his last 3 games, while Bahl is -8. Danny, plus minus, of course, isn't the be-all and end-all anymore, but what do you make of these numbers? Because they are pretty staggering.
Yeah, they're ugly. But I'm going to do the thing where I say, let's pump the brakes just a little bit, because those guys have been so good this year. Honestly, Kevin Bahl in particular, there were moments where you wondered what was going on against Dallas. He had 2 penalties. One of them really wasn't his fault. He had to take the penalty. He was put in a horrible situation. It was smarter to take the penalty than to allow a clear goal scoring opportunity. That might have wound up, really hurting the Flames. So I am not going to be the guy. I just can't be the guy who comes on.
Be the guy, Danny. Be the guy, Danny.
No, I will not be the guy. I've been super impressed with Kevin Bahl. I think that we were talking about the penalty kill a couple days ago, and Ryan Huska talked about, like, look, it's okay for the penalty kill to actually have dips in the season. The point is you identify the problems and you try to cut them off as soon as they are. So if you are Kevin Bahl, if you are Rasmus Andersson, that is, you don't want this to last 5, 6, 7 games. Cool. You've had a tough, I would really say it was only a tough 2-game stretch, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. Going back 3 games, the stat helps us prove the point, but I actually don't think that's true. It's been these 2 games on the road trip. They haven't been at their best. Cool. Go home, get some rest, fresh start, get it going. I just cannot, in good conscience, come on here and rip on those guys too hard.
Yeah. Kevin Bahl's taken enough rips, right? You leave on a road trip +5, and by the end of the first game, you're even on the season. That's a tough night of the office, but this has been the Flames' most reliable pairing throughout this season. And, really briefly in Nashville, we saw the defense pairings mixed up, like maybe for 2 or 3 shifts. And I was kind of taken aback. I thought, yeah, it's been a rough go for Bahl and Andersson, but who else do you maybe trust to throw into that shutdown spot, or do you try to load up Andersson and Weegar and then maybe take your chances with the other pairings? That's something you probably would be really hesitant to do on the road. And so I can see these guys, riding through it. They're both much better players than they've shown in the last 2 games. Rasmus Andersson's had a couple pinches that have come back to bite him. Kevin Bahl's had a couple of reads that, are very un-Kevin Bahl-like. But, this is the Flames' best defensive pair. And I think as soon as you ponder breaking them up, you're going to think about putting them back together again.
Yeah, I think Rasmus Andersson has been the Flames' best player this season, and I don't really know, who else I would have in that debate. So the idea that you're going to mess too much with the formula that's brought that out of him, I just think is unlikely.
Finally, Flames prospect Zayne Parekh, a late injury addition to Team Canada's World Juniors training camp roster. Wes, he's had a strong offensive season so far, but there's always questions about his overall game, including in his own zone. What do you think his chances are of cracking this squad?
Yeah, I'm totally intrigued to see where this goes. So the week starts. It was Monday of last week that the roster came out for selection camp. Zayne Parekh is not on there. It was Friday morning that Dave Cameron, the head coach of the Canadian junior team, and a name that Flames fans know because he was formerly an assistant here in Calgary. It was Friday morning that he calls Zayne Parekh and says, okay, we've had an injury. You're coming to camp after all. And I'm fascinated, guys. I talked to Zayne Parekh, and he's, like every second sentence is prove everybody wrong. I'm going to show everybody. And we're talking about a guy with, really, really high end puck skills. And so, he's done a lot of work. The Flames have certainly, challenged him to become better defensively. When he goes on his weekly calls with the development team, they're not watching dangles and saying, oh, that was sick. Like this is all about, gap control and winning battles along the boards and, not losing your check on the way back to the net. And, he feels like he's improved a lot there. He feels like he's become a lot better rush defender. And if he can show it during Canada's camp, just because of what he can do offensively and on the power play, I got to think he's got a good chance to make the team. I'm not going to sit here and, we get tunnel vision, right, on the Flames prospects. I can't sit here and assess how, Sam Dickinson or Matthew Schaefer would look on the power play compared to Zayne Parekh. But that motivation of already knowing what it feels like to be cut from the team, I think he can really use it the right way. And if he channels it in a couple of exhibition games this week, I certainly wouldn't be surprised to see him wearing a Canadian jersey on Boxing Day.
And if you'll allow me to do not some self-promotion, but I guess, I don't know, like West promotion, go read that story. It got me fired up reading. I was like, let's go. Zayne Parekh got something to prove. I love it. It was a really good story. And it, it was exactly what you want to hear from a guy in Zayne Parekh's position. Let's be honest, probably not a guy who's been cut from too many teams in his entire hockey playing career. An immense talent. And I will say that this morning when I went to check his numbers, if you're a Flames fan, check the OHL scoring leaders. Flames have 4 prospects in the top 30. Luke Misa, Jacob Battaglia, Henry Muse, and of course Zayne Parekh. So lots to be excited about there. And yeah, read that story. It's good.
Yeah, I will second that as well. Go check that out after you finish watching this video. As always, leave your thoughts in the comment section below. For Danny Austin, Wes Gilbertson, I'm Rob Wong. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you next time.